Hi, today I want to take some time to talk about sheep. And usually when we talk about sheep, we also talk about shepherds. I found a lot of things in the Bible we don't necessarily associate too closely with our own culture. So trying to figure out what that means when it talks about sheep. And I really want to focus a lot on a couple of passages in the New Testament, but I really want to start with one from Isaiah in the Old Testament. So Isaiah chapter 53 verse 6, it says, "All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way." So we all like sheep have gone astray. So what does that mean, we all like sheep? How are we like sheep? Do we look like sheep? Do we sound like sheep? Do we smell like sheep? Now, hopefully we don't smell like sheep. If we do, please go take a shower. You're part of a fold. You're part of other people. You want to be clean. You want to be a clean sheep. In order for people to hang around you and for you to do sheep-like stuff with other people. So do that. So be a clean sheep. But what I really want to talk about is, what are sheep? What do sheep do? Like I said, in our culture, in our country, we probably don't see a lot of sheep. We see a lot of other farm animals. We're not familiar with the way sheep operate, so to speak. So sheep, what they do is, of course, they eat. They eat, they sleep, and they get sheared. And they kind of go through this cycle. Sheep are a type of animal that's a grazing animal. So what they do is they are eating. As they're eating, they're moving along. They're typically just moving along to the next meal. So they just live meal to meal and are very comfortable doing so. In our modern day vernacular, we would say they live paycheck to paycheck. Now, not that anybody within the sound of my voice knows anything about living paycheck to paycheck, but this is what they do. So as a sheep is going meal to meal, as they go meal to meal in their daily life, they're very comfortable. They're eating, they have the shelter that they need, they have the sustenance that they need, so they don't feel like they really need anything else. They're, like I said, they're comfortable being a sheep. But what happens whenever something goes wrong? What happens whenever tire goes out, the engine breaks down, refrigerator stops working, or heaven forbid, there's an illness or an accident in the family? Now all of a sudden there's more bills, all right? And we haven't budgeted for that. Wait a minute, budget? What's a budget? Okay, we'll have to talk about that some other day. That's a totally different discussion that we'll have on the subject of budgeting. But right now we want to talk about sheep and what it's like being a sheep. So what happens whenever these sheep all of a sudden have these more expenses put on them, and they have more pressure put on them, and they're unable to make it week to week like they used to? So what's going to happen? Well, sheep, of course, survive. We don't necessarily survive the way they should. Okay, so sheep have two main things that keep them intact and keep them moving in the direction they're supposed to. The first thing the sheep have is a fold. They have other sheep that they hang around with. They have other sheep that they're a part of that keeps them going from week to week, from meal to meal, and allows them to be able to survive and to do what they need to do. Okay, you've heard of a lone wolf, but you don't hear of a lone sheep. Sheep are not designed to be able to function and to survive on their own. All right, they need help, so they stay together in a group. They are in that flock and in that fold, so therefore it keeps them safe. But more importantly, it just keeps them going in the right direction and the way they're supposed to go. They just kind of follow the other sheep and do what they're supposed to do. So that's the first thing. The other thing the sheep have that keeps them going in the right direction is they have a shepherd. All right, so what is a shepherd? Well, just as the word suggests, it's somebody that herds sheep. So it's somebody that is entrusted with and protecting and taking care of the herd of sheep. Now, in our household, we have 3 dogs. One of those dogs is an Australian Shepherd. Now, this type of dog is one that really would rather be herding sheep than doing other things around the house. But what it does is whenever my nephew and nieces come over, it likes to herd them. It likes to make sure they're all together, keeps them in one place, and he wants to be able to watch them and make sure they're happy, make sure they're thriving, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, but making sure they're safe also. The other thing that he does incessantly is bark. He barks at the neighbors. He barks at people as they approach the house. He wants people to know that you are not part of this fold, therefore you stay out. And he sounds much more ferocious than he really is, but he wants people to know that this is not where you belong. stay out. Even so much that if we have people over, he will play and have fun with them while they're inside the confines of our fence. But as soon as they leave, he will bark at them to say, go away. So again, he's very protective, but he's also very playful. So again, how does that relate to a shepherd? Well, a shepherd is a caring person. He's a selfless person, but he's a very protective person. So a shepherd is somebody that's, again, going to keep track of the sheep. He's going to make sure that they're fed, make sure they're taken care of. More importantly, make sure that they're protected. Whenever they go eat and graze, they're going to do so in a protected place, in a place that allows them to be able to survive and to thrive. So that is what a shepherd does. So we find that in the parables and in the books of the Bible, as Jesus talks about shepherds, we do find that Jesus is the good shepherd for us. What does that mean? That means that he calls us by name. Shepherds, though they can be shepherding can be a lonely job, it is one that allows them to name the sheep and to become close to the sheep, just like Jesus is our good shepherd. In John chapter 10, it talks about him being the good shepherd and hearing our voice, and him hearing us, and us being able to hear him and follow him as our shepherd. So that is something that we're trying to figure out. How are we like sheep? Well, that's how we're like sheep. He is our shepherd, and we're going to recognize his voice, and we're going to know him. And we may have in our lives a voice that we don't recognize, and maybe we don't recognize that because, one, we don't realize we're a sheep, and maybe we don't realize we're sheep because we haven't recognized that we have a shepherd that's calling out for us. The Bible in John chapter 6 talks about no one comes to the Father unless the Spirit draws him. So the Holy Spirit is very active on this earth. The Holy Spirit and Jesus have worked tandem together as our shepherds to be able to call unto us, to bring us back into the fold, and to allow us to be able to, again, survive and thrive as sheep. God does not want us just to be survivors. He wants us to thrive. All right, he's not come for us to have life, but he has come for us to have abundant life. So we need to have abundant life. So that's what he has come for. So Jesus calls us by name. All right, he wants us to recognize who he is and be able to call on him, but more importantly, be able to follow him and trust him as our shepherd, that wherever he leads us, it's going to be safe, and it's going to be a place of productivity. It's going to be a place for us to be able to feed and just have abundant life. That is what Jesus has designed for us as our shepherd to take us through. So what does this mean for us? Well, we often find ourselves lost because if we're trying to go on our own, we're always going to be lost. If we try to do it on our own without a shepherd, a sheep will always go astray. All right, so you might find yourself right now that you've been in the fold for years, but maybe you've wandered off. Maybe you don't trust the sheep. Maybe you don't trust the shepherd. Whatever's happened to you, you've probably been entrusted to the wrong shepherd. You've probably been entrusted maybe to the wrong flock. But whatever it is, if you listen for the good shepherd calling upon you and go toward him, or better yet, you don't even have to go toward him. You can cry out and the shepherd will come to you. In Luke chapter 15, where we find the other parable of the lost sheep, that it talks about that. Well, let's just look at that. So in Luke chapter, let me find that. All right, so it says in Luke 15, it says, "What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after just the one which was lost until he is found? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulder, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he's rejoicing." So his families and his friends and everybody is rejoicing over that one that has come back. And it says, "Moreover, the 99 persons who need repentance." So in other words, we're rejoicing over the one. not over the 99 that stayed and were where they're supposed to be. But what I wanted to take away from that parable is that Jesus, as the good shepherd, he is going to come and find you. All right, you cry unto him because you want to be found. You cry unto him, he's going to take you. He's going to put you on his shoulders, and he's going to restore you. All right, so my prayer for you today is that wherever you find yourself, in whatever situation you are, whether you know exactly where you are and know which direction you're going, whether you didn't realize you were a sheep in need of a shepherd, all right, wherever you are, you can call upon the Good Shepherd, and you can call upon Christ, and he is going to be there for you. He is going to restore you, and all of heaven will rejoice. So my prayer for you is to be restored. My prayer for you is to call upon the Good Shepherd and simply follow him.